Welcome back to Wellness Today, and I'm Frank Caporale, your host again today. We're here with Tracey Gonzalez. Tracey, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, hello, Frank. Today we're going to focus on a subject that's very interesting to me. I love this subject. We're going to be talking about our different temperament styles. We're going to talk about our unique temperaments, and we're going to talk about how they impact our interactions with others, how we respond with others. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
And where do we get this temperament from?
Well, our temperament is inborn. It's
Wow.
kind of like our spiritual DNA. When we look at our temperaments, it really is the way that we do respond to others in our environment, how we react when others interact with us as well. And it determines how much love and affection we need as individuals. It determines our need to be controlled and how much control we need over others. Different temperaments need a different amount of control. Our temperaments determine our intellectual energies, and they also determine how much socialization we need as individuals. So our temperaments are very important. It's very important to understand our own unique temperaments.
Well, you know, I'm glad to hear you say that because now I don't feel guilty about my temperament.
Okay. Do you know what your temperament is, Frank?
Excuse me?
Do you have any idea of what your temperament is?
Well, you know, everybody
we go
tells
into
me,
it?
you know, I tend to come across based on military background. And I thought maybe that's because I did like the military and I spent some time there and I like order and I like direct response and I like immediate action and all that. But now I think you're going to tell me that, well, the reason I liked it is because it was already inborn me.
Well, yes. There are different temperaments within the military, of course, you know, but there are certain temperaments that adjust better than others, I would say. When we talk about temperament, our temperaments are different than character, okay? People get character and temperament kind of mixed up there, but our character can change, but our temperament is always the same. Our character is learned behavior, and our environment can shape our character. Our interactions with others can affect our character. We also have our personality. Some people feel as if temperament and personality are the same, but they're not. The personality is self-selected. It's a mask that we wear. Our personality is. Our personalities are expressed in the way we perceive how we must behave in order to survive. So, for example, you may have a TV personality. You may have a comic that's on, and every time you see this comic on TV, they're funny, they're hilarious, they're just a hilarious person, and we call that their TV personality. But when they're home, what are they like? They may be the most introverted person in the world, but their talent brings them out into an arena that is kind of like outside of their normal temperament, but we're seeing their personality. So it's very important for us to distinguish between temperament, character, and personality.
Touch on personality just one time.
Well, personality, just to make it very simple, there are different personalities all over the place. You know, and I think the easiest way to be able to explain it is really by looking at different people that we know, like on TV, you know, different people that we know that are in the public eye. Many times you see a certain personality, many times they're outgoing and they're very comfortable in what they're doing. You know, whether they're an actor or actress, they're very comfortable in what they're doing. However, if you think about an award show, and you think about an actress that's a very emotional being, and they're very outgoing, and they're just very animated. Then when they win an award, they're kind of nervous, they're quiet, they're a little shy. They don't even match that personality that we're used to. So personalities can change. That they are a mask. They are self-selected. But we respond to others. We live our lives according to our temperaments. That never changes. Each temperament has strengths, weaknesses, and needs. There are certain needs that each temperament needs to fulfill. And if those needs are not met, then that person may operate in the weakness of their temperament as opposed to their strength.
The first one being what?
Let's talk about the first one. And the first one would be the sanguine, that sanguine temperament. And if we were to put a description to sanguine, we would say the popular sanguine. This is a person that's very outgoing and they love life. I think about some of the characters that Goldie Hawn plays. She's very bubbly, and exciting and very energetic. She would be someone that I would place in my mind as a sanguine. They say that the Iron Man is a sanguine. He's a fun one. Kelly Ripa from the Kelly Show. She's bubbly and talkative, and she's could be a sanguine. They're very happy. They're very expressive. They love people. They love to talk. They love to party. They love to have fun. They're very responsive. They're social butterflies. That's the sanguine. They're very charming. They're artistic and emotional. They're witty and they're easygoing. So that's the sanguine. But that sanguine also has needs. So we just talked about their strengths, but they also have needs. And some of their needs are the fact that they need attention. A sanguine needs a lot of attention. A sanguine needs a lot of affection. A sanguine just needs acceptance for who they are. That's all they need. And when those needs are not met, when they are rejected, when they are not getting that attention, then they may sink into their weaknesses and they may respond to their environment and the people around them according to their weaknesses. So they can be very impulsive. They are the least disciplined temperament. They can become very restless and they can really shirk their responsibilities. They are the ones where if they put in their mind, okay, Saturday morning, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to pay all of my bills, that's what I'm going to do. They'll sit down at their desk or their kitchen table, wherever they are, they'll get a phone call from a friend, hey, Sally Sanguine, why don't you come with me to the mall? Let's go hang out at the mall. Let's go, there's a big sale at Macy's. Let's go over there and just kind of like have fun. Sally is going to do that because her need is to be social. If she's not careful, if she doesn't understand her temperament, she's going to go ahead, forget about these bills, go to the mall, and 3 weeks later she's going to be upset because the bills weren't paid. What did I do? Oh, that's when I went to the mall, that's when I went to that party, that's when I hung out with my friends. Very social. So they are ones also that are very prone to mood swings as well. And if any of our viewers are thinking, well, maybe I'm a sanguine, one thing that a sanguine wants to keep in mind is that they have what we call a safety valve.
Like what?
That safety valve is something that helps them to regulate themselves. So for example, if you know somebody that's bubbly, outgoing, they're very social, they love to be around people, then all of a sudden you don't see them sometimes. It's like, what happened to Sally Sanguine? There's this safety valve that kind of like kicks in and they just kind of like withdraw. And people may say that they're moody, but that safety valve is saving them from burnout. There's other temperaments that are prone to burnout, but the sanguine has this safety valve, and if they don't know what that is, if they don't know why am I this day feeling so down, they're going to think that they're depressed. They're going to think that, there's something wrong with me, but really it's just a time to rejuvenate, a time to relax, a time to rest. So that safety valve with that sanguine is very key. One thing I do want to add too, with every temperament, there is a need to control others, and every temperament has its own little way of controlling others. With the sanguine, they control others with their charm. So that's the sanguine in a nutshell.
Well, I could think of a friend that could use this lesson.
Are you thinking of any sanguines?
Well, I'm thinking about one individual that could be so much better if we would accept him where he's at.
Okay.
And I feel guilty about that we tend to want to correct some of his behaviors because he does exactly what you said. Go to the next one.
You know what? Knowing people's temperament helps us
Yes, it does.
to interact with them on a better, it relieves anxiety and stress for us when we understand, you know. Another temperament is choleric. The choleric, the descriptive word would be powerful. We're talking about the powerful choleric. This is a very charismatic person. Donald Trump may be choleric. You know, this is a person that is a natural leader. Oprah could be a choleric. Bill Gates could be a choleric. And I say could be because there's certain tests that you can take, very quick tests, to figure out what your temperament is. Someone may look like they are a choleric, but really there's something else. And that's a whole nother topic that we can get into. But with the choleric, this is a person that has great leadership capabilities. They are the boss. They're powerful, they're in charge, they're strong. They're very, very goal-driven. They're task-oriented. They love to work. They love control. They're very decisive. They make decisions very quickly, and they're pretty well thought out, and very quickly, very quickly. They're very organized, and they are always right. This is that person that to work better with them, you have got to make them think that they're right. Just a little tip there. But very interestingly, with the choleric, they instinctively make correct judgments. They're the person that you want to go to when you're in a dilemma and you're like, you know, I don't know how to figure this particular thing out. That choleric can think quick, and they're usually right in their judgments. So it's just something to keep in mind in regards to the choleric. They have needs too, just like the sanguine. The choleric needs to have a sense of control. When that choleric is not able to operate in their needs, then they may fall into their weaknesses. So one of their needs is the need to control. They need people to be loyal to them. They need appreciation. They need credit for the work that they're doing. And when they're not receiving that credit, when those needs are not fulfilled, then they sink into their weaknesses. And some of the weaknesses of the choleric is that they can become very unemotional, even cold. They can be short-tempered, bossy, very frank with you. They're workaholics. They can be
careful about that. My name's
very
Frank.
frank with you, Frank. They're very stubborn.
Yeah.
They could be very rash and very resistant. And so people will wonder, what's going on with them? Well, they're operating out of their weaknesses because a need is not getting met. The way that they control others is with a threat of anger. And it's not that they just get angry. It's just that threat of anger is kind of like in the atmosphere with that choleric, you know, and because they're very task-oriented. They want to get the job done. They are the one that you want in a leadership position when they are operating out of their strengths because they will get the job done. So that's basically the choleric. And as I'm talking and as I'm speaking to our viewers, you know, think of, it's very, it's understandable to like have different people in your mind that you deal with, whether it's a relative or a friend, wondering, is he a choleric, you know? Maybe they are a sanguine. Very interesting how we learn about these different temperaments.
At Thursday's meeting with the men, they said I needed to soften my military approach.
Uh-oh, Frank.
Okay. And I was thinking when you were talking, I used to quote this all the time. And it used to aggravate Ronnie, I'm sure. I'd say, listen, I'm never wrong. One time I thought I was wrong, but I made a mistake.
There you go. There you go. I'm hearing some choleric stuff going on here. Oh, my goodness.
All right, we got another one? Can you get one in?
Yeah, we got another one. We got
another
stuck on the choleric for a minute. I'm just kidding. The next one is the phlegmatic. The phlegmatic. And that descriptive word would be the peaceful phlegmatic. They like to take it easy, nice and slow. They're calm, they're cool, they're collected. They're the most balanced temperament, the phlegmatic. And it's hard to tell if they're upset because they're very well balanced. They have a basic desire, and that basic desire is peace. I just want everything to go fine. I've got to reserve my low energy. Not that they have low energy in the sense of not a lot of energy to do what they have to do, but because they're very balanced. And that balance that's within that phlegmatic allows them to be someone that's a really good peacemaker. They're that person that if there's a disagreement going on, you want a phlegmatic to be that mediator, that one that stands in the middle, that one that's in the gap trying to help out two people or a group of people that are having issues or some sort of conflict. They're able to get involved, help resolve the problem, and not take anything personally. They're able to just stand back and be that neutral party that can bring two sides together. They are patient and they can be shy, but really they're very, very easygoing. When something happens that really riles them up, they can explode, but right after they explode, they're fine. They're not going to hold on to a grudge because they don't have time for a grudge. They want everything to be nice and easy.
Do they have weaknesses?
Of course they do. Yes, they do, Frank. Very good question. The weaknesses of the phlegmatic is that they tend to procrastinate. Many times they will procrastinate. And when we talk about how temperaments control others, where the sanguine may use their charm, the choleric may have that threat of anger. With the phlegmatic, they control others by procrastination. They put things off. That's kind of like a form of quiet control for them. So they tend to procrastinate. They're extremely slow-paced. They can be very stubborn. They're difficult to motivate. If they don't want to be motivated, they're very difficult to motivate. And they're very resistant to change because they like things to be kind of like status quo. So that's some of their weaknesses. But they also have needs too. With that phlegmatic, they need peace and quiet. They just need everything to be nice and mellow. Just please keep the noise down. They need a feeling of worth. They need, when I say need, we all need something, but the phlegmatic temperament, that innate quality within them, they need a lack of stress. When there's a lot of stress, they're very much off balance. And they need respect for who they are. Many times we run into phlegmatics, we don't know that they're phlegmatic, and they seem very laid back and just kind of slow and going with the flow. And when you have a sanguine that is ready to get up and go, there's a problem. When we have the choleric who's like, come on, we got to get this thing done. And the phlegmatic is going at their own pace because they want everything to be right, because they just want everybody to take it easy. There could be some conflict there.
Well, I just want to say something to the audience, that if you're like Ronnie and I, and you just described both our temperaments, okay, you can survive, okay, if you respect each other and remain faithful to them. And we're married 55 years. And I know this woman since she's 6 years old, and we're 77 now.
Very nice.
But you just described both of us to a T, back to back.
Now, in my description, was I describing two different temperaments?
Yeah,
right.
Mine and hers.
Right, because if you have a choleric temperament, and your partner is a phlegmatic, and we say that opposites attract, and it's really true, because the two temperaments balance each other out. If you have two phlegmatics together, well, I don't know how things are going to work out there, unless you have a total understanding of each other, which of course is possible, But
difficult.
But difficult, unless you're on purpose, wanting to make things work, But when you have that choleric, that phlegmatic balances that choleric out, because that phlegmatic loves balance. They like to keep things in order. And that choleric, once their mind is set on, this is what I need to do, and I'm getting ready to do it, they're going to put things in order to get that thing done. And that phlegmatic is there to say, slow down. You got to slow down. If the choleric is not in tune with this relationship, they'll say, no, I don't have to slow down. I'm going to keep on going. But when you're in tune with your relationship and you understand each other, your wife can say, no, I'm telling you, you need to slow down. And you will say,
Well, you know.
What will you say, Frank? Okay, dear.
What I just discovered from your conversation, which I hadn't known, is that I used to go on vacation, and I had it all planned out for the 10 days or whatever. And she was like an anchor, not wanting to go up the mountain or over here or down to the lake. And so in the later years, I would bring my reading material, and I would sit on the porch and just read. And then about 11:30, 12 o'clock, she would say, well, let's go out. Where do you want to go? I don't know where I want to go. You just drive, okay?
Oh, nice.
In other words, like, I don't know the neighborhood. You're in Alabama, right? But you do. You studied the map already. So, so then you start going towards the shopping center or a restaurant, and then she begins to open up and say, let's eat lunch. Okay, what do you want to eat for lunch? I don't know. Okay, and then it gets into, well, then I go down because of my personality. You want to eat meat, fish, pasta, you know, Chinese, you know, let's narrow it down so I can pick a restaurant, okay? But very interesting.
Yeah,
very
it is interesting, and yes, opposites do attract. The last temperament that we have is the melancholy, and that descriptive word would be perfect melancholy. They are perfectionists, the melancholy temperament. Beethoven could have been melancholy if we had assessed him. Ernest Hemingway, he could have been had a melancholy temperament. They're deep thinkers. They're very serious. They need to know the purpose of something, and they can also be very, very moody. When a melancholy is kind of down, just leave them be. You know, don't try to cheer them up. They'll come around. That's their temperament. They're very creative. They're very detail-oriented. They're intellectual. They're analyzers. You know, they're planners. But they're also faithful. They're very, very faithful. With the melancholy, their needs include intellectual stimulation. They need to be stimulated intellectually. They are the ones that study very well. They're the ones that if there's a problem, they're going to pick it apart and figure that thing out, you know. But they also need support. They need people to believe in them. They need silence. They don't need a whole lot of noise either. They are ones that need their space. If they like you, you can come right on in, you know. So those are some of the needs of the melancholy. When we talk about their weaknesses, they can be very resentful. If their needs are not met, they can be very insecure, pessimistic. They can be very critical. Melancholies in general are introverts. They become very depressed very easily. They're unforgiving, and they're very revengeful. I hate to say all these negative terms here, but this is what's going on with the melancholy. If they don't understand themselves, if they don't understand why their sanguine friend is so outgoing and all over the place and they're not, once they understand their temperament, they'll understand why they are the way that they are.
Well, you know, it's very interesting because I can picture a friend of mine, and when I met her, she said, you know, I'm very cautious about who I let speak into my life. But from that point on, she allowed me to. And she constantly calls me for support. And now you describe this perfectionist that's always struggling with the lack of support. And I'm not really in her immediate circle, but I do meet with her regularly, purposely, because she does need support.
And she needed to know you. You know, she needed to know that she could trust you. She needed some time there. We're talking about people that need to know the purpose. They're just deep thinkers. You know, those melancholies, very deep thinkers. The way that they control others is by a threat of mood, because they're very moody. You know, picture, you know, if Beethoven is a melancholy. If Beethoven is a melancholy and he wants everything perfect with this symphony, can you imagine what his friends and those that work with him would be saying? Okay, what mood is he in today? You know? So these are things that we want to keep in mind when we talk about temperament.
Well, we have about 3 minutes left.
Okay.
So is there Any other temperaments that we're going to have to continue at a later date, or do you have something you want to end with in the last few minutes of our show?
Yeah, I think that right for now we want to kind of like stop there. I think that in the next show we may want to continue with temperaments a little bit more. We do have an email address that will be put up later, I guess, just to let people know how to reach us in case they have any questions.
Sure.
Because our next show will be on, we will continue with temperament. It's very important to understand how your temperament impacts your health, and not only your physical health, but also your mental health as well. So we're going to go over that as well. There are counselors out there that counsel people according to their temperament, and that's something that we want to kind of touch on as well. Really helps to understand someone's temperament, because you really get to the crux of the matter instead of putting a Band-Aid on something. And we're able to kind of like go deep so that we can uproot some, some negative thinking, negative self-talk, and move on so that people could live a more emotionally healthy life.
Well, I think the Japanese, when they interview people for a job, they try to analyze this part of the person. I'm not sure they understand it as well as you explained it, but they're looking for people in the right spot. And that's true, because you put people under tremendous stress, even though they have the capabilities to do it, because they don't have the temperament to do it.
Right,
and so it is something that we need to continue to think about on a regular basis.
Yes.
Well, I hope everybody enjoyed the show as much as I did.
It's fun. It's fun talking about
wonderful.
temperaments.
Yeah, I love this part of it. I love to think about, what's going on inside of us, rather than what's going on outside of us. And you cleared up a lot of things for me in my thinking. The main thing about it, folks, is you don't have to apologize for your temperament.
Right.
It is God-given, just like your body, your gift, your talents. It's to prepare you, without a doubt, to fulfill your destiny. And think about it. You need to have gifts and talent, but you also need temperament. So whatever I tell you today, I want to tell you, come back and hear the rest of this program. You are going to be so blessed. Please email us, but be tuned in as soon as you can. Have a good day.